Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'd like to start off by acknowledging the traditional owners upon the land which we gather on here today. I thank the organisers for inviting me here in my capacity as a Youth Commissioner on the New South Wales Community Relations Commission. But first and foremost, I speak to you as somebody who 14 years ago came to Australia as a refugee from Iraq. And when thinking about what to talk about today, the thing that came to mind was what often people ask me, and that is, what were your experiences as a refugee and why did you choose to come to Australia? And so that's what I want to touch on today very quickly, share a bit of my personal story and share a little bit of thought on the issues that refugees face in our community. In 1997, my parents made a decision that they wanted to leave Iraq under Saddam Hussein and his brutal regime. They wanted a better future for their kids. They didn't want us to be in the army or be prosecuted by simply expressing our freedoms. They didn't want their kids to be unemployed and living in poor living standards. So they said that they wanted to come to Australia and went about that journey. It was a very difficult journey. We came through as illegal refugees. We arranged for illegal passports from Thailand. We managed to get Greek passports from Bangkok and come to Australia and seek refugee status and claim as on the basis of fleeing religious and political prosecution in Iraq. We were lucky that even though we spent 8 months in Villawood and experienced a very difficult time, and a time that I can't explain to you enough in terms of words, because we often didn't know about our future. We didn't know what was going to happen to us. Were we going to be granted permanent residency, or were we going to be deported back to Iraq and face being persecuted by Saddam Hussein? We, my family, my 2 brothers, my parents and myself, reached the final appeal with the Minister at the time, Philip Ruddock, and finally we were granted permanent residency after staying in Villawood for 8 months and experiencing a horrible time. Psychologically and mentally, that was a very horrific experience. And so, luckily, but as I said, after 8 months we were granted permanent residency and our claim for refugee was given the okay by the Minister on final appeal. I just want to highlight that often when this debate of refugees and asylum seekers, people are led to believe that people come for economic reasons. That represents a very small minority. Most people leave countries where poverty, sectarian violence, they simply want to come to flee violence, poverty and war. And that's what my parents were trying to flee in coming here. After being released from Villawood, you would think that life would all of a sudden be full of roses and one would be living in a heaven. Life was tremendously better upon being as refugees in terms of settling were very difficult. My parents had to try and seek employment. My father was suffering from health problems. We had to restart again and connect, make friends, and rebuild our lives. And that process is what every person arriving new to our country faces. So if you know somebody who's new to the country, do your bit to help them, make them feel welcome, be a friend. They're likely to appreciate that and you'll be their friend forever. And I'm very happy to be part of a community. I live in Roselands myself. I'm happy to be part of a community that embraces refugees and migrants. Because if you read an article in the Sydney Morning Herald on the weekend, it said while refugees find it hard to begin with, they go on to become our biggest contributors in our community. They become business people. Their kids become educated. They work as doctors, lawyers, and want to make Australia a better country. That doesn't surprise me because people come to this country wanting a better future, so they roll their sleeves and want to work hard. So please keep that in mind, extend a hand to a friend, embrace our recent arrivals, And I thank the organisers once again for giving me the opportunity to share my story with you. Thank you.